everyone, welcome back. So, today we're going to get into a series called The Basics of Blacksmithing, that's what I'll call it. Today we're going to start off with one of the most basic elements of blacksmithing, hammers. So, I have a variety of hammers right here, judging by all these handles, and I think I might even have one over there somewhere. I lost it. Anyway, so yeah, let's sort of get started on that. First things first, claw hammer. Probably the most common thing you'll find, and this is what I started out with, because most people own one of these, and when I was 13, I didn't really have much money to invest in my blacksmithing habit, so I just kind of used what we had on hand. And, well, effectively, at a certain point, a hammer's a hammer. So, this worked. It wasn't great, but it worked. It's got this little bit on the back used for prying up nails and such. Thus, claw hammer, because it's got a couple of claws on the back. Use that to just sort of pry them up like that. Really effective. I like it. It's a mechanically decent implement. Probably our second most common hammer is going to be the Ballpeen Hammer, which I know I have a much beefier Ballpeen hammer somewhere around here. I just can't find it, unfortunately. But it is a really good Ballpeen hammer. I actually, for a minute, thought that I had injured my hand when I was attaching the handle and hammer head. I did something stupid. I grabbed on both ends and just like that. This was the beefy one. This one I wouldn't do that with under any circumstances. But I was young and dumb, and yeah, I thought I'd injured my hand, but turns out it was just soft tissue damage. That comment didn't age well. Another hammer that is somewhat common, albeit not in this size, is the Sledge Hammer. This is a mini sledge. It's pretty decent for blacksmithing. This is kind of the hammer that when I got it, I finally officially considered myself something of an amateur blacksmith and not just some guy hammering on a hot piece of metal. This one I've modified. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but I sort of sanded off a little bit right here, just sort of rounded it off a little bit. I think one side's a little bit flatter than the other, one's a bit more rounded off. That's for the purpose of moving metal, and I'll get into the physics of that in the next episode of this series. But for now, this is just a mini slide. This right here, I'm not entirely sure what it's called. It says plum on the side, so maybe it's has to do with that. Anyway, this is a smaller hammer. I just kind of like it. Use this for smaller detailed work. You know, I don't want to lug around a big mini sledge. Big mini sledge. That's a weird one. Don't want to lug one of those around when just hitting something that doesn't require a whole lot of force. I'd rather have a nice, small, localized little thing right here. Now, again, not sure what the back of this is for. Kind of reminds me of a geologist's hammer, or a stonemason's hammer or something like that. Not entirely sure what it's called, but I know it's used for those applications. And I'll get into that pretty soon, but it also kind of reminds me of the next hammer I'll cover, which is a cross peen hammer. This thing looks a little bit weird, because it is a little bit weird. On one side you got a mini sledge, which I think I rounded off. Hope I did. This one I've actually found I tend to use more, because it's a little bit more versatile. It actually has a side for, you know, regular mini sledge type stuff, so I rounded it off a little bit. Probably could have done a better job at doing that, but I rounded it off a little bit, and, you know, instantly increased the quality of it. On the back here, I also rounded off a little bit, but pretty much kept the original shape. You know, this is the defining characteristic of a cross peen hammer. Now, there are two different kinds of cross peen hammer, one where it goes like this and one where it goes in like that, and the taper is actually sideways. One of them is like a French style cross peen hammer. I'm not sure which is which. I'm not very schooled on my terminology, but I am schooled on the use. Because of the unique physics of this hammer, this side is good for moving metal. And I'll get into that in the next episode too, but I tend to like this one just for fast movement of metal and also just sort of general versatility, and also just, you know, hey, what if I want to experiment with making a fuller one day? Okay, now we go to the final, or maybe second to final, if I can actually find the other one. Second to final hammer that I'll cover. This is that geologists or stonemasons or Masonry Hammer, I think that might be what it's called. Anyway, it's this thing. Got a pointy bit on this end and a square bit on this end. Yeah, I like this thing. I actually used this for a very long time. I inherited this from somebody, not entirely sure. This is one of those first few hammers I used, and it actually worked out pretty well. You know, it's decently beefy. I attached a pretty big handle to it, so it seems to work out pretty well. And yeah, I mean, pretty much just cleaned the rust off of it, and it was good. So, I mean, again, lump of metal on the end of a stick. It works pretty much just as well as any of these other hammers, just with some differences, and you know, how much metal I move per hit. You know, obviously, you want a good weight to it, but not something that's so heavy it's out of control. Like, I'm not about to use like a 6-pound hammer on something this big, you know. So, for the final hammer, it is not just a lump of metal on the end of a stick. No, it is different. It is unique. It has a very specialized purpose. It's a lump of rubber on the end of a stick, also known as a mallet. I never use this with blacksmithing because I don't want it to melt. And I would not recommend its use in blacksmithing because it also is horrible at moving metal. But it does have its uses. If it's something soft that you don't want to dent, for the most part, this is pretty good. It's got a huge striking surface, which I'll get into why that's important in the next video. Maybe I should have just combined them. But it's got its own specialty uses, you know, if you need to do something that metal would be overkill for, because overkill is actually a thing, then this would be the one to use. You just can't miss with this thing. I mean, look at that, that's massive! Anyway, those are its general uses, as you can tell. I don't use this one a whole lot, so I don't really know too much about it. Anyway, so with that, I'm just going to end the episode here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please, you know, like, subscribe, leave a comment, you know, do something, you know, make the algorithm sort of pick this up and let it do its thing. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me for it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.